Hello, welcome to part 5 of the Sleigh in Notion webinar series from us over here at N-Dash Consulting. Today, we will be talking about rollups in Notion. This is a feature that a lot of people maybe try out, get confused, and then give up on. So we're going to take a specific focus to this and talk about where it can be useful and where it will fall short and different ways you might be able to get around that. Let's dive in. All right. So pull up Notion and get going. All right. So the first thing to talk about is do a review of relations. And I kept this run relations run favorited just so I could show again. Relations are a way to connect databases in a relational manner, just like you would have in any sort of relational data store. So you might have several health checks, but each health check is for a single reindeer, and multiple items will be linked to reindeer. So when we look at that in practice, if I collapse some of the items here, and let's start out with the reindeer station. So our reindeer fleet is, I can go to manage data sources or data source settings to show which data sources I have in this rain data database. We have our fleet, we have our health checks, we have groomings, and we have training. The team has, since we left them with the concept of relations, gone and started to track quite a few things in their test flights, precision landings or navigation practice, their health checks, and their groomings. And if I go into those data stores or into those views of those data sources, I will see for health check, I can see a history of Blitzens, health checks, what came out of it, what was Blitzen's weight. And so they started tracking this and have related it to the actual reindeer via this reindeer fleet relational property. So that is what is connecting our records here, our reindeer fleet records, to our health checks. If I open up one of these reindeer, I will see a list of the groomings and health checks that are related to this individual reindeer. Now, this layout here, I'm not going to get into it today, but we can customize this. So if this is overwhelming, you can quickly reorder it, but you can also completely hide the properties and put them into other panels and fun stuff like that. But that's the basis of what we have here is relations in these different databases, in these different data stores. So groomings, health check, training, all of them will see a reindeer fleet relational property that's bringing us back to that reindeer roster. Now you'll see in the health checks, I decided, I decided to go ahead and group them. We can do the same sort of thing here where we can choose what we're sorting by. This is sorting by the training date, today, yesterday, when was it? But you can also group by the reindeer fleet relational property. And so now I can see, okay, here's Blitzens, here's Comets. So that's why some of these views look different. And you'll see that trainings, these are their own data schemas. So this is its own entity with an activity type and training levels and weather conditions, whatever we want. And same with groomings, where an individual grooming record has things that are only specific to grooming and not necessarily to a reindeer as an entity, hoof issues or full coat brushing. So this lets you know, our folks that are entering uh, individual pages. If I'm a groomer of one of these reindeers, then I can go and fill it out in a pretty easy way. And also, we won't touch on, but Notion has forms, so you can have entry into something that's very specific to the grooming of a reindeer or the health check of a reindeer, um, but that it through the relational properties, you're getting some more rich connected data. Now, that is relations. That's a review of relations. Um, so, what are rollups? Rollups. This is a rollup. Latest health check. If I go, and again, with any property in a data store in Notion, I can get to the settings for it a few ways. The simplest is usually just clicking on the header and looking at the edit property field. Uh, so this a rollup takes three or just two attributes. Um, the relation, so which field am I trying to roll data up from? In our case, it's going to be health checks. So I'm trying to roll up data from all of the related health checks for one individual reindeer. I will select health checks. The second item is the target property. So you can then start to say, which property of the related items am I trying to roll data up from? And when we're doing a date, so actually, it looks like I just broke it when I went and did that. So that's great. We can fix it. So what I'm interested in is the dates, and that would be the health check date. So of all of my related health checks, I'm interested the targeted property of the related item. So these columns are called properties. So target property is the health check date. The health check date is not a property in the reindeer roster. That is a property in the health checks. So I'm going into that related data source. I'm saying that's the data field I care about. And then I get to select what sort of calculation or roll up function I would want to do. For dates, we have you can do date range, you can do earliest, latest, um, and you can do your normal count and unique values. In this case, I will choose latest date. And now my latest health check property, which is a roll up, is going to be going through all of the health checks that are related to this reindeer, looking for their dates and displaying their latest date. So that is what we see here. And we can validate that December 2nd for Dasher. If I go to the health checks and I collapse these for Dasher, November 22nd, 27th, 30th, 2nd, 2nd. So it looks like, yes, December 2nd. That is a very common um, roll-up application. Already, though, we are encountering some limitations from Notion rollups, which are good to be aware of. I don't recommend you just say, well, rollups can't do what I need them to, so I give up. You should still experiment with them and see how surfacing this data can facilitate better workflows and all of that. But one of the main things is I can't actually sort. So this rollup type cannot be sorted. So I couldn't show my roster here in a way that is sorted by a rolled up date like this. This is the type of feature that, today that might be the case. If we check in next Christmas and do another training for all of the elves, that might be different. So um, there's also quite a few things that are being pushed in beta around filtering, additional filtering within a roll up. But for now, uh, this is the capability for dates. That's just for dates though. So another um, very applicable type of roll up would be one that's more numeric. So if we wanted to grab the average weight or another statistical field, because it gives us more than just average or count, and we can also get some deeper data. Um, this roll up. So if I go to edit property here, we'll see this is the same relation. Um, I'm still trying to roll up data that is in my health check, my related health checks for this reindeer. But my target property, again, these are properties that I would um, that live in the health check database. My target property is no longer the health check date; it's the weight. And when I choose a numeric target property, I can do my normal count and percent and unique, but I also get to do um, a few more things. So min, max, median, and sum. And if you wanted to, you could start to combine and add multiple properties that do some aggregation on those fields or what you need. But in this case, I just want to see, what's my average weight that I'm looking at here um, for the reindeer, and so that I can see that in this list. If I didn't choose to calculate and I just said show original, it's going to show me a list of all of those. So it's going to grab all of the related health checks and show me a list. Um, this is another area where there's some pretty big limitations within Notion right now in rollups, where though I can sort um, my overall table, I can't change the order in which these items are appearing here, and I can't filter out. So I couldn't say, show me the average weight only for health checks where they were unhealthy. You cannot do that with a single roll up at this point. And I'll touch on some of the things we can do with formulas to work around that. Um, but so, I, and again, these features change and the capabilities change. So I always recommend going and trying to make the property, trying to make something work. Go through their docs, ask an expert, or try your luck with a different um, large language model tool that might be able to help you in configuring this. Your mileage may vary on the last one with an AI tool because these things do change so quickly in terms of what they can be, what they're capable of, and the actual feature set that exists in the application, like Notion. So I'm going to go back and change that to giving me the average. So that is a date roll up. That is a numeric average roll up. I also can just for a quick sort of swag, I can say, okay, I need one more roll up. I want to see who hasn't gotten enough training sessions. And that's where I would go create a new property and I would say number of trainings is the name. The relation I'm referring to is the reindeer training data source. The target property um, doesn't actually matter here because I'm rolling all of these up into, I want the total count. So I would go to count and count all. Now, if I wanted to say, what's the what are the weather conditions that they've gone in, I could say show unique values, and this is going to highlight all of the different weather conditions across all my different training sessions. But for this, I can pick any property, any target property. All I really want is just a count of the number of records. And what this number is showing me is this reindeer training relation right here. If I were to expand this, there's 20 items for Prancer, and that is rolled up here very nicely um, into a single property. And this we can sort by. So like I said, some types of roll-ups. You can do sorting, some you cannot. For the numeric count roll-ups, we can do something as simple as a descending or ascending sort, so we can see, oh yeah, lightning hasn't gotten any training sessions in because he's been too busy with saving Christmas with Elmo. I guess that would count, right, as a training. Um, so let's go back here. All right, so I've got my fleet. This is a different view. Roster fleet. This is a table view. If I go to view settings, uh, the layout is table. If I go to my fleet, my layout is gallery. Um, this might be somewhere that I would want to see, who is healthy, who's sick, what's a basic, some properties about them. In this case, I chose to do um, average weight. But we also would likely want a couple of other things like their health status. So this is one of the areas that rollups will not do the job for you. And I have two different uh, workarounds for that, um, each with their own pros and cons. But so previously, the team had put together a health status property for healthy, sick, injured, resting. Now, if I wanted to try to get the the latest health checks, health status, because that does exist in one of these records. It says healthy. Um, so if I were okay, let me do another roll up here, and this roll up is going to go to health checks, and what I care about is the health status. There's no real way for me to get this. So if I choose show original, it's just going to show me a list, like it showed me a list of all the weights. If I wanted to say show the unique values, it's going to show me a list, but just down to the unique values. So it'll tell me if they've ever been listed as sick or if they're only healthy, which could be valid. Um, but outside of that, I can't really do too much. Count values is just going to count all of them, and percent empty, percent not empty should be 0 because it should be filled out. So I'm kind of dead in the water with rollups. If I were to try to say, give me the last status of all of the related health checks, I can get the latest date, but I can't get any further information about that using only rollups. So one way, and the way I don't recommend, is using an automation. So you could say, well, when a health check, when a reindeer gets a new health check, then let's go and find the latest health check and set the health to the health status property. So this here um, is modifying this field. And so if I were to go over to my health checks, go to Dasher and say, um, actually, this isn't Dasher anymore, and no reindeer fleet. I'm going to change the healthy to injured. Let's make sure that Dasher is not already injured. So Dasher is sick right now. If I go back to my health checks and I set Dasher to the reindeer fleet as injured, my automation should, in a moment, change that to injured. So one, it's not real time. Two, if I were to go and modify this health check where it says injured and change it to healthy, because it turns out there was an error, this will never get reflected because the automation is based off of this property. And the only time that gets triggered is when there's a record added or removed. So a new health check that's associated with Dasher. If I were to go into that health check where I changed it back to healthy and remove Dasher and then go back and add Dasher, then it would do that. But of course, we can't expect anybody to go and manually make an update like that. That doesn't really. makes sense. And because even that, there's an issue. I don't think I unassigned it for long enough from Dasher to trigger the automation. So that's not the way to do it. Can't do it with rollups. Don't want to do it with automations. You can do things like this with formulas. So, and this gets, this is where the LLMs might come in handy, or your buddy Buddy the Elf who likes to code a little bit, or your Excel whiz, or you are an Excel whiz. This is not too far off from formulas in Excel. So what this formula is doing here, and what this one is doing here, formula is a property type where you specify a formula. When you go to write your formula, Notion gives you a nice little editor where you can uh, sort of drag and drop different items. But with a formula, you can reference your relational item. You can do any sort of manipulation you want, so sorting or filtering or what have you. I'm doing a sort on the health check date so that it's descending, grabbing the first item in that sorted list, and then pulling the health property. And that is what we see right here. Um, so in this case, Dasher is showing healthy. If I go and modify that last health check from healthy and make it resting, come back here, Dasher is now resting. So not a roll up, but an area where a lot of times people will go and grab the roll up tool and try to use it, and it doesn't work, and then they'll just stop. But it's okay because there is the formula tool in the same tool bag that you can bring along and tighten up whatever you need to um, to get something like this. And when you do formulas, there can be constraints like whether or not you can group on them, or whether or not you can filter. Um, depends on what you're rendering in the formula, if it's text or not. But for this type of formula, we can actually group and see, okay, of here's my reindeer roster. Um, here's everybody who's uh, healthy, and at this point, this health status is not what we want. We don't want that to live in the reindeer fleet as an entity, as a property that we edit. We want that to be a roll up. So I'm going to drag last health status over and delete this property and delete the automation. Well, look at that. It says it's invalid because we deleted that status property. Um, so here we'll see this roster is now grouped on last health status. And that does give us some visibility that we want, or if we're looking at it from more of a gallery view, we can do stuff like if you're sick, make your card color red. Um, we could make these small images fit the image, and you'll be able to see a bit better that these ones are red. Or you could make it so that if they're resting, so last health status is injured, that should be purple. Um, and nobody is injured here, but if I go to my health checks and say, sorry, dancer, but well, you're already sick. So sorry, Cupid, but you actually are injured. Come back to my fleet. And Cupid here is purple, showing injured. And that is through a formula. Um, no, you saw there was no update, or there's no delay. There's no waiting time. There's no automation credits you're burning or anything like that. It's a very simple way to take some of your relations, and where you can't satisfy it with rollups, um, you can satisfy it with formulas. That's rollups for reindeer. Let's do another quick example. So the elf operations, um, we've got a toy production tracking database, and it looks like the team went and did a little bit of work with the list, the big list, um, of all the children. And you can see there's a bunch of folks in here with different notes, and and all of that. And you'll see wishes are showing up here. So it looks like what we have is a relational property called wishes that is taking us to a wish list database. And I can see that's related to the wishes data source. I know that that is within this database right here. And if I didn't know, I could just click on one of these items and navigate to it from that. Okay, so what are the wishes? So the list that we have is children and wish lists. They've created a way to say, okay, this child has wished for this item. And every time a child wishes for the item, they're relating it to the child. Great. And then they're also relating it to the type of toy. So now and that tells us we've got a list of toys somewhere, which we know from last time is in the toy production tracking database. So the team has put together relational links between what children are asking for and the toys that the team can actually produce and make. And they're doing it. And if you've done any sort of database work, this is a very common pattern where this table stands as the in between, or this data source stands in between the children and the toys by saying this is a a child toy request. So, why do rollups matter for that? Well, in our toy production tracking database, we had previously put in some quotas, things like quantity needed. That was a guess. And now the team is able to start to look at, okay, well, how do I know the quantity actually needed? We we have a list, we have a relation to wishes. So, hmm, let's create a roll up property where we roll up the number of wishes for this type of toy. So, toy wish count. I'm going to edit the property, select the wishes relation. The property that I'm targeting doesn't matter because um, I'm just looking for a count. Now, if we had the system where you could wish for 5 snowball target games, we could roll up that quantity and aggregate across all of that. But for this, we're just looking for a count. And what we're looking for is to count all values, count all unique. These should all be the same thing because our page titles are unique, but we can just do a count all. And that tells us 19. So 19 people have wished for this game, but we've said we need 70. And so we can start to get quite a bit more information. And now that I've done the roll up, the toy wish count, this wishes column is kind of annoying because look how long I have to scroll to see each one. I'm just going to hide this in this view because I don't care about that, and do a little refresh so that everything is cleaned up. I guess I didn't actually hide it. So there we go. And now we have our rolled up toy wish count that is directly from our wish list tracking and our child, what do kids want for Christmas um, here. And this immediately allows us to start running some further things like I could do a formula where looking for the greatest disparity between, either the wishes and under needed or over needed, and start to prioritize as the elf, production line manager. Okay, it's time for us to pump the brakes on the cars and instead, let some wind into the boat toy sales production line that we're looking for. It is 12:29. We went through quite a bit there. There's still plenty that this sets the team up for to do next, but this is an overview of how you can take your relations and actually do something with them instead of just having a big list that is taking up a bunch of screen real estate in your database view. So hopefully this was helpful, and we look forward to the next one. We'll probably do one more before the big day. I know you all only have so much time you can spend on training for this anyway, with everything heating up and the bags getting packed and reindeer getting ready. So um, thank you all, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And come by the subscribe to the YouTube channel, or follow us on our LinkedIn page, because we'll be doing some more of these, but we'll also be starting to hit totally different tools. So a lot of this stuff that you see here could also be done in Airtable, or in Confluence DBs, or Miro. Miro is now enabling a lot of stuff like this, where it's more data rich. So we love different tooling options here. We love experimenting and using them for our own systems and processes. And we'll be sharing whatever we learn along the way, and different tips or tricks we find. But thanks, y'all. Have a great rest of your day.